Welcome to the DIY Writer Show with the mild-mannered, slightly heroic host, Jeff Bacon.
This is Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer Podcast, and today we're going to talk about If My Ass Were Smaller, Life Would Be Perfect by Julie Glynn. Julie, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. Don't forget my subtitle.
I was going to leave that for you because first thing I was going to ask you is, how did you know my ass was so big? No, just kidding.
The subtitle is really the most important part of the book, because if my ass were smaller, life would be perfect. That's what a lot of people believe. But the big subtitle is the and the other lies, the mean girl in your head tells you, which means if your ass were smaller, your life probably or may not be perfect.
Well, let's go ahead and just dive into this thing, because this is going to be fun. All right, sorry. Please, let's talk about your book.
Talk about it. Okay. It's about the lies that the mean girl in your head tells you. And one of the biggest ones I think most women hear is, if my ass were smaller, life would be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily true.
Okay.
Actually, just a couple days ago, and this happens to women, I think, all the time, I was scrolling back through my phone looking for a picture of something, I don't know what, and I found a picture of myself from a couple of years ago when I was in the middle of a pretty restrictive diet. And I looked really good. And I remember I looked at that picture and I thought, damn, I wish I looked as good as I did then and felt as good as I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So needless to say, I gained weight back after that diet, which almost every single person who goes on a diet does.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of true that, if my ass were smaller, life would be perfect. My life wasn't any better. Actually, my life is better now than it was back then.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, part of it is that I was sacrificing the quality of my life, for one thing. We were in Florida. We spend 4 months a year living in Florida from January to May. And we go to beach bars, we hang out, people come and visit. We do a lot of eating out, a lot of, it's like 4-month vacation, really. I wasn't doing any drinking. I wasn't doing any sharing appetizers. I wasn't doing any, let's stop at that ice cream stand over there on the corner while we walk down the beach. It was, we go out to eat and I'd be like straight to the salad section.
Okay.
We go out with a bunch of friends and you know how they stand around and they're like, oh, I'll get this round. What do you have? And what do you have? And what do you have? And you come to me, I'm like, I have some water with lemon. And then everybody would just like gawk at you. And there's like, I remember going to a bartender one time. I went out with the girls. And I went up to the bartender and I asked him, can you give me a water in a glass that would look like I was drinking a drink, so that nobody knows I'm drinking water?
Sure.
And I was like, who does that? Where's the quality of life? I'm not having any fun. I'm stressed out that my friends are going to find out I'm drinking water. And the only reason I'm drinking water is because I'm afraid that tomorrow morning when I get up, what the scale's going to say. And it's like, where's the quality of life and enjoying social situations?
True. So, this is talking about diet. What about exercise?
Well, I have a theory about exercise. And see, I'm a certified intuitive eating counselor.
Okay.
And they talk about gentle movement, which is moving your body. I think exercise is great. I do. I think it's important to feel strong and capable. I think where you kind of run into the little fine line is when you're using exercise as a form of trade-off for, oh, I ate this food, now I have to do this work to level it out. That can start leading down the road of some disordered eating and disordered thoughts about eating and food. I think if you like to exercise, if you like to feel strong, then absolutely, I'm so totally for exercise.
Okay. So you said that you're trained in intuitive eating. What is that?
The easiest way to understand intuitive eating, and you might get this because I think you told me you have a small one at home, is think of a child, especially if you think of like an infant. They cry when they're hungry, you feed them. And then
Mhm.
when they're not hungry anymore, they stop eating. And we're born that way. We're born. We eat when we're hungry. We stop when we're not hungry. But as we grow, we start using foods for other reasons, and we get away. We tend to drift away from that intuitive feeling of
Okay.
eating. And one of the big things that we do as adults is one is we eat when we're not hungry, and I have a big section in my book about that. Sometimes we're in a situation where you just have to eat when you're not hungry.
Hmm.
Like when you go to a wedding, you're probably going to eat food when you're beyond hunger. You're beyond full. I mean, eating wedding cake, nobody's hungry at a wedding when they eat cake, you know, and nobody's hungry when they eat the second piece of wedding cake. But sometimes it's so good that we still do it. What happens though a lot of times is like we sit at our own dining room table or in a restaurant, and it's like, well, all this food is in front of me and I'm going to eat it, even though I stopped being hungry, you know, 10 minutes ago or
Hmm.
whatever, half a plate ago. So
Sure.
that starts to be outside the realm of intuitive eating, is when we continue to eat, but we know we're full. And there's a lot of reasons why we do that. And so that's kind of like, because I'm also a coach, and that's some of the things that I dive into with clients is what those reasons are. And then the other one too is to make sure that you do eat when you're hungry. Is I'm like, I walk the walk. The whole time I wrote my book and everything in there, I relate to it. And the
Hmm.
other day this came up is I've been doing really good at trying to make sure that I don't eat when I'm not hungry, or at least I kind of figure out why am I eating? Am I hungry? Am I this? I got a little bit of pushback the other day in some stuff on my book, and I had to redraft. I didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to do this. It's hard. It's a struggle. And my brain went straight to, do we have any M&Ms around here? I'm going to eat some M&Ms.
Do you think that's, see, because when I feel that way, and I'm a guy,
Mhm.
obviously, so and I know it's a little bit different for women, but I don't think it's that much different. Um, do you think that is non-intuitive eating, or do you think that's also in part like a sugar addiction? And when you get stressed out, all of a sudden you need that rush of whatever sugar does to your brain to make you feel a little bit better. I think carbs kind of do the same thing, but
There is, I'm going to say the jury's out on the addiction thing. There's a lot of studies that negate a sugar addiction.
Mhm.
Um, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I think what's most importantly is if someone believes they have a sugar addiction, then that needs to be recognized and addressed. Be compassionate about if someone believes they have one. I personally think it's more of a habit, like a reward habit. That for me, when I want the M&Ms, I want the pleasure. I want that feeling of that good taste in my mouth because I don't want to be doing this other thing. It's kind of like when somebody holds your hand at the hospital when you have to get a shot or an IV,
Right.
and it's like, I'm not addicted to that person, but it helps me feel better when I have to do this other thing that I isn't going to be quite so pleasant.
Mhm. I I can um I can relate to the sugar addiction portion of it. And the only reason, and I think it's a loose term,
Mhm.
but I can tell you that from my own personal experience, that if you cut sugar out of your diet for like 2 weeks, you just don't eat, you eat all sorts of other foods and not sugar. At the end of that 2 weeks, during that 2 weeks, you struggle.
Mhm.
And at the end of that 2 weeks, it's like, you really don't need it anymore. You can actually satisfy yourself, that's this, that sensation that, you need to eat this to be able to feel better goes away if you cut that
Mhm.
stuff out. And
Mhm.
I'm more of I'm more into discipline than I am into dieting.
Mhm.
And I like to screw around with things like, hey, let's not eat carbs for a while, see what happens. Let's just eat red meat. Let's just, whatever. How does that work? And I'm young enough and I'm in good enough shape to where it's not going to screw me over. It
Mhm.
really isn't. But I mean, playing with those things, and I use it more along the lines as a guide to see what should I be eating, what do I run on better, you know, that type of stuff. But I
That's one
will
of
I,
the things.
I will
Go ahead.
qualify with I've been I wrestled in grade school all the way through college, and I coached wrestling and everything else, and that's diet intensive. So I mean,
Mhm.
my mentality is screwed up over years and years and years of doing stupid things to my body.
Yeah, but aren't we all?
Yeah, sometimes I get a little screwy on things, but that's okay. So, I mean, when you talk about intuitive eating and you talk about, your diets and how bad they are versus this and that and everything, I am somewhat of a hypocrite. I can tell you what I've learned, and I can tell
Mhm.
you what I've read, and I can tell
Mhm.
you all sorts of things, but the stupid stuff that I do to my body, somebody looking and goes, okay, you're talking this way, but you do this. It's like, yeah, I want to try it. What the heck? Yeah, I'll try keto for a while. Well, yeah, I'll try this. I think it's an experimentation just to see what happens.
Well, that's interesting you say that because I talk about that in my book a lot, is experimenting. Um, Experiment with how certain foods make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you said about the sugar, I totally get that because it's part of what I talk about is experimentation. Experiment and see how you feel by either eating it or not eating it. But where with intuitive eating, it sort of kind of comes into a little bit of a problem is when it becomes a restriction. Like when I was on my
Okay.
diet in Florida, I was restricting. I was not enjoying a cocktail with my friends. I was not enjoying French fries in a restaurant with our, when we go out. I wouldn't have pizza. I was restricting.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you think about the mentality of having something be restricted, if you need an example, just think about toilet paper in February, March, and April.
Okay.
Okay.
I was
So your
wondering where
brain
you're going with that. I'm like, okay.
so your brain does the same thing when it thinks there's a restriction of food. That once you allow to have it or once it's available, you're gonna hoard it like crazy. The same
Mm-hmm.
way we all did, or not, I'm not gonna make the same way. We know what happened with the toilet paper when there was a fear of the restriction and it became available. So sometimes when you say, oh, I'm going to go for 2 weeks and I'm not going to eat any sugar, then when you all of a sudden say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and allow the sugar, your brain does the same thing. And it's like, oh my God, where can I buy cases and cases of toilet paper because it's available? So that happens, and that's a lot of the reasons why people who go on a diet and restrict end up gaining weight back is because it was restricted, now it's available, and now I want a ton of it.
So my question has always been, doesn't anybody own washcloths anymore?
Showers
I mean,
or
there's all sorts of alternatives to wiping your butt with a piece of paper from Charmin. I mean, I didn't get it. I mean, it was just the dumbest damn thing in the world. It's like, oh my God, look at all this, and I mean, there was a 6-pack of Charmin on Amazon was $42. And it's like, who the hell's paying that? And then they were sold out, and it's like, everybody is evidently.
he's
I
paying for
didn't
it. I know.
I didn't get it. But the problem I had with it was on April 3rd during the Great Shutdown, I had a 3-year-old that was, I'm sorry, on April 3rd, I had a newborn baby. Okay. And I had to go out and try and find some baby wipes. Well, no, evidently baby wipes were also taken out on the toilet paper because those are nice and, everything else. And we might as well wipe those out too. And I couldn't find baby wipes anywhere. And it's like, okay, This is cool.
Yeah.
And people were buying diapers to wipe their butts with. And it's just like, okay, so now's a diaper shortage. And it just is this stupid chain of events. And I still don't get it, and now it's happening again, kind of. And it's like, you guys, seriously, there are all sorts of things that you should probably, stock up on if there is another shutdown.
Yeah.
Toilet paper isn't one of them. It's not an essential. If you're too, if you're too hoity-toity to use a washcloth and then rinse it out, if your hand has never touched shit, you've never had a daughter. You've never had a kid in diapers where, you open up that diaper and you got shit all over your shirt. You've got shit all over your face. You've got shit all over your carpet. You've got shit all over the place and you have to rub it up. What's the difference between that and the nice little turds that come out of your butt and just wiping up with? I don't know. I'm sorry. I ranted. Yeah, right. Sorry.
Yeah, there was a spot in my book where it was so perfect to use the toilet paper analogy, but I didn't want to go there in the book. I didn't want to date what was happening. I didn't want to bring any bad memories of our 2020 into my book. So I did not use that as the analogy, but when you think about restriction, look at what we all did over toilet paper.
Yep. I get that. And when you see, I listen to Joe Rogan. I love his show. And he was talking about restrictive diets at one point in time. And he's been on a few, different ones and everything else. But what I really thought was funny, and the one thing that I pulled from everything that he was spewing off was, he said, when you sit down in a restaurant, and you're eating, that person that made that food is really kind of an artist, and it's really offensive if you don't at least try it. And there's some beautiful creations at these restaurants, and he didn't really care if it was an Outback or if it was, a local pizza shop or, whatever. Restaurants in general, all different price ranges and everything else. So, probably with the exception of McDonald's, but whatever. They actually, put some care into making their food and everything else. And they like to see eating it. And who are you to not partake in what they created? Because you're not getting any enjoyment out of just sitting there watching everybody else, snarf down a burger at Red Robin, and you're eating, grass, and I get that, and some people can't eat those things, and I know a person who's on a very restrictive diet because they're allergic to pretty much everything on earth, and they carry multiple EpiPens and everything else. And they're like, I just sometimes have to say, screw it, I'm going to eat a steak and pay for it,
Oh, and I totally get that too. And see, that's the thing about intuitive eating is they're like, no food is off limits. And that's where I kind of I see people struggle sometimes because they're like, well, I'm allergic to peanut butter, but I can't do intuitive eating because no food is off limits. And it's like, well, that's not exactly what they mean. They say no food is off limits. It's why are you not eating that food?
I'm sorry. I should. Yeah. So instead of being restrictive, you have to eat everything.
Anaphylactic shock, then no, don't eat that food. That's not restricting. But sometimes you have the situations like, we used to have a restaurant here and they made garlic nachos, and we would go there all the time. Garlic nachos with they had tomatoes, and I'd have them put extra cheese on it. They were the best. And you almost had to eat them with a fork because they were just
stop. Tell me more. Garlic nachos.
Yes, and they went out of business. We went there like once a week. Oh, it was my favorite food.
Like nacho chips covered in mozzarella cheese, I assume.
Cheddar.
Or cheddar. Okay.
Cheddar. And then it's like they just took the garlic press and just went and just shot fresh garlic all over these nachos. Oh my gosh, they're so good.
Okay. What else was no, I'm just kidding.
I know.
Give me the recipe later.
I ate those garlic nachos. I'm up all night long because of the garlic nachos. But sometimes I'd be like, yeah, I don't think so. I can't do it. I need to sleep tonight. But sometimes I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'll
Yeah.
stay up all night long. I'm having garlic nachos. I'm
Yeah,
doing it. I'm going in.
I would.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
already
doing it.
kind of in. I'm like,
I
really?
know. I'm like, you got my back. I'm going in. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Um,
So sour
but
cream and lettuce and the whole bit, or
yeah, I mean, it's just like salsa. I mean, it's just like, oh, to die for, to die for. But it's like you make the decision. Yeah, I know I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to be like popping Tums and Maalox and Pepto Bismol all night long. I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow. But hey, I'm having garlic nachos tonight. You make the choice. You
yeah.
know, what do I want to do?
So your methodology here is basically revolving around happiness, and I'm guessing being happy with yourself, happy with what you're eating, and realistically looking at your life not as a set of rules and restrictions, but living your life more along the lines of, what makes you happy and what can you live with.
Exactly. Because I mean, really, when it comes down to it, isn't it all about quality of life? And again, it's kind of like a trade-off. Like, okay, do you think you have a higher quality of life by restricting and, you know, making social sacrifices so that you wear a certain size pair of pants? Again, that's a choice. It's not one I choose to make. I choose to just really like be like, okay, this is the body I have,
Mm-hmm.
and it is what it is. And the other thing too that comes up is our body size is predetermined by our genetics. And you see so many people that are like, well, I think I can change that though. Because see, I like the way that girl or that person or this other person's body looks, and I want mine to look like that. So I'm going to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we kind of really start messing things up. Like, oh, well, I can go on a diet and I can do this and I'm going to look like her. And then my life is going to be different.
Which I agree I agree with that to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that there's another, I mean, I think that's on a spectrum of
Mm-hmm.
sorts, because there are some people that abuse food. They absolutely abuse food, and there's no way in world. I mean, we've all seen the shows like My 600-Pound Life, and that's not natural. That's an abuse and an addiction to. I mean, there's problems there, but I mean, just from what
That I would consider that to be disordered eating,
disordered
where
eating. Okay.
yeah, where people need medical, you know, more advanced help from a medical
Sure.
professional situation.
Mm-hmm.
Different than what I talk about in my book.
Okay. And, on the other side of it, you've got all the other eating disorders that I think and I get that you can probably say there's something, something in the brain that's wrong, or, something, whatever. But I really think I believe they're socially induced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your bulimia, your anorexia, those are the two that come up in my mind. But you've seen these on Facebook. You've seen them everywhere. Look at Bob. He was a slob. Then he took our 60-day diet, and now look at him, and it's a bodybuilder. Same guy. They just either photoshopped him or did whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's people have the ability to do that kind of weight loss. I mean, you can lose a tremendous amount of weight in 60 days. It's stupid. It will have bad effects on your health, and you won't be happy ever during that. But I mean, you can drop a lot of weight really quick, and you'll get it back. But everybody thinks that a bodybuilder, whether it be male or female, and they're looking, they're all muscular, and they're like, oh yeah, look at my 12 pack of abs and everything else, that's healthy. And what I don't think anybody understands is that when a bodybuilder looks like that, they are completely dehydrated. They have not eaten, and they're actually they look strong, but they're at the weakest point in their life.
Mm-hmm.
When they're up there showing off their muscles and everything else. They can't lift crap. They don't have any energy. bodybuilders in general have short spurts of energy, and they're not, they're not really in it for the long haul. They're not a marathon runner at that point. They're not, the strongest people in the world. What do they look like? They're big. They have padding. They're the guys that can wrestle bears. They're not restricting their diet. They're actually upping their diet so that they can keep the amount of energy they need to take that, 600 pounds and put it over their head. And who's happier? I mean, they're not pretty, but they've made choices to be able to be that strong.
Right. Right.
So I think a lot of people, I'm talking way more than I should. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I think a lot of people get screwed up with diets because they want to look like that bodybuilder, and you never will. And if you do, I'm sorry. I mean, you can look muscular, you can look really pretty with some bulging muscles and everything else, if that's what you're into. But on the other hand, you don't want to look like a bodybuilder because you're not going to live long that way.
I think what happens is that not just that they want to look like that person, I think that people get this idea that the lifestyle that person has is better than what like, say for me, okay, I look at that person, I think, oh, they have a really great lifestyle. If I look like that, my life will be like that. And same way with you talked about the commercials where, oh, Bob lost, 900 pounds in 18 minutes overnight. And what they're promoting is the lifestyle. Oh, well, now Bob has a really nice car, and he's got girlfriends, and he's got a promotion, and he doesn't have a mortgage payment anymore. And because he lost all of this weight. And that's the thing that I struggle with my message is everything that sucks in your life right now is still going to suck no matter how much weight you lose. There was a skit, an Adam Sandler skit on Saturday Night Live not too long ago. He came back as guest host, maybe like less than a year ago. And he was making fun of a local travel agent in the New York City area.
Okay.
And they were promoting a Italian vacation package. And he says, we'd like to address some possible negative feedback ahead of time. And basically his message was, if you're not getting along with your partner or your spouse here at home, you're not going to get along with them on an Italian vacation. If you don't like the way you look in pictures here before you go, you're not going to like how you look in pictures on your Italian vacation. He's like, basically everything you was saying is, if your life sucks now, our Italian vacation is not going to change any of that.
Right.
If you hate who you are now, you're going to hate who you are in Italy too. You're bringing it with you. And that's kind of like, it's funny the way he portrays it, but that's the same thing. If you don't like anything about yourself now, who you are, that same who you are is going to go with you, whether you gain or lose weight. If you don't like your job now, you can gain or lose weight. You're still going to not like your job. If you're, like you said, the baby, if they're shitting all over the floor, you can lose weight. Baby's still going to shit in their diapers all over you, And it's like changing your weight is not going to change these circumstances in your life. And I think that's what happens is, and I don't think people come up with this idea on their own. I don't think they just wake up one day and say, oh my gosh, I bet if I lost 20 pounds, I'll get that promotion. I think they're fed it by, like you said, those commercials. Oh, look at Bob. Not only did he lose weight, but now his life is perfect, which is like, look, changing the size of your ass isn't going to change the quality of your life.
I agree. Or, let's say you're single and, get you that perfect mate. They don't exist. I'm just saying from experience. You know, I mean, you can be as skinny as you want, but you're still probably, you know, I mean, that's not going to change the quality of how dateable you are, or who you're dating all that much. It's just going to, you know, screw things up for you. I mean, you're still going to be screwed up. You know, if you can't talk to somebody, then you're still going to be, you know, lonely, or, you know, not where you want to be. I mean, it's all about, you know, personality and everything else. But I also think a lot of people don't understand that things happen and quality of life is increased by taking small steps.
Mhm.
It's not, you know, it's the tortoise and the hare type thing,
Right.
which is the best
Well,
business book ever.
and I think the thing is that people are missing is quality of life comes from the inside, not the outside.
Mm-hmm. I'd
And that's
absolutely
where,
agree with that.
but the thing is, though, is so I think it's easier to try to change the outside. That's easy. I have visual accomplishments. Changing the inside, nah, that's not so easy. That's why I think so many people are like, well, it's my husband's fault. Well, it's my job's fault. Well, if I change the size of my body, if I do this, all of that is like, if I can control everything around me, then everything inside of me will be better because I don't want to have to deal with the inside of me. That's harder to change.
That's what I was just going to say, is that's the hard stuff to change.
Mhm.
And you can, it's probably easier to lose weight than it is to change yourself on the inside.
Mhm. Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
it's
mean,
easy. I take this action and that action happens. It's a done deal. It's do X and then Y and Z will happen. But on the inside, oh, that's a lot harder.
mhm.
How do I change how I respond? You know, when somebody cuts me off on the road, we've been doing that for so long and we know how to change that.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with internal feelings. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
you know, when somebody says something, it automatically triggers an anger or this or that, and not being able to dig in and deal with that feeling that
Right.
comes over, that you know, naturally creates whatever reaction it is, whether it's verbal or whether it's nonverbal. You know, like you say something, I go, you know, does that make you mad?
Well,
No, I'm very happy. You know, but you can't control that, you know,
mhm.
until you actually figure out what the hell did she just say that pissed me off, and why does it piss me off? You know.
Exactly. And you know, the thing is that again, it's kind of like the same kind of experimentation. Okay, experiment. I eat garlic nachos. I discover I'm going to be awake all night. That doesn't sit well with me. So I need to, you know, think about it next time. Same thing though, like when, like you say, your reaction time and your reaction to things is kind of experiment with it. Well, you know, whatever. This happened, and you know, husband leaves the toilet seat up. Whatever. This happens. I yell at him. Now we're in a fight, and 3 days later he leaves the toilet seat up again. Well, it's another experiment. You know, is this working? It's just like the garlic nachos. We're just doing the same routine over and over. Maybe I need to change something there.
Okay, so let me just take your analogy and run with it for just a minute. What if he came back and said, damn it, why'd you put the toilet seat down again? I want that toilet seat up.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, you know, it's the dynamics between the two people and how's it going to play out? And the thing is, it only takes one person to change how it's going to play out.
No, this is just logic and science. I'm sorry, the toilet seat should be up
Mm-hmm.
because it keeps everything cleaner, you know, and then you just put it down when you want to use it. I mean, do you take dishes out and set them on your counter just because you're going to use them later? No, put the toilet seat up. The other thing is the toilet paper. You know, it only goes one way. It should only be on the toilet, you know,
There is a
one.
patent. There is a patent that it says which way it's supposed to
I
go.
know, but nobody listens. I mean, there are rules in life.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
there's a patent that says which way it's supposed to go.
Right, exactly, with the toilet too. That lid is supposed to be up.
I haven't seen the patent on the lid, toilet lid,
Well, you need to look that up. It is a rule.
that it stays. Well, then why do they have a lid if it's supposed to stay up?
Well, the lid and then the seat. So you take the lid, you put it
Mhm,
up. Okay.
mhm,
Take the seat, put it up, and that way it's open. It's ready.
mhm.
It airs out. It's much better. And then you put down what you want to. Yeah, it works that way.
it's like a vending machine. You select what you want and
Right. You
throw
have
it.
options at that point versus, if you're running in and you really have to go, you don't care if the seat's up, down, whatever, but the lid being down is a problem.
That I'm going to agree with that, because
Right.
at my age, there are times I come running in and I just don't have enough time to lift the lid. That was the one thing I didn't have time for.
I'm telling you, it's much more convenient, and it just makes much more sense if you lift that lid up. That lid only goes down when you have company and it's dirty.
Or if you need a place to sit while
Right.
you're doing,
Exactly. It's a convenience thing. You really, most commercial toilets don't even have a lid. They just have the seat.
like at the Home Depot and stuff, they don't even have a lid.
Right. So, it's just a convenience that you have in your home to have a lid, and you can tape it down if you have like a 3-year-old that likes to play in it, and stuff like that. It's got its functions, but the lid should be up and the seat should be up. That way you can pick what options you need. And in an emergency, if everything's up, it's still functional.
I'm having a hard time arguing with that, because I have had those emergency situations happen before. I'm like,
I haven't given it any thought at all and never had this argument before.
because I'm like, let's see, the option is to sit with no seat at all or not make it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of on the fence of, I'm not sure which one is worse.
It's all personal choice, but on the other hand, you have to look at it from a logical perspective on how things work.
And I guess going back to your original question, that's just going to be the dynamics of the relationship that you have with whoever you're living with, on how you decide to have it be.
Who would have thought we'd be talking about toilets?
Yeah. Toilet paper and toilet seats.
Yeah, it's an anti-diet book, guys. Toilets and toilet paper. All right. Well, the other thing that I think is important is that eating healthy. Because that can make you feel good too.
Well, and that's the thing is that's what it's going to be about. I went out for dinner with a friend of mine the other night, and she hasn't read my book yet, but she knows my philosophy. She knows where I come from. She knows that no food's off limits, blah, 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 blah. And we sit down, and the first thing she says is, I've been really good the last few days. I'm like, excuse me? Did you forget who you're sitting here with? And then she goes, no, like, I've been really good that I've been eating things that make me feel good, as opposed to choosing foods that just leave me not feeling as good as other foods do.
Yeah.
And I was like, good save. Good save.
Well, I look at it from the perspective of like rice versus rice cauliflower. I like them both.
Okay, now you're getting into quality of life again.
No, I don't. For me, I like them both.
Yeah. Okay. If it's all things, equal.
Yeah.
Then
there's
which one makes you feel better?
There's certain foods or certain like Chinese foods that I think the rice cauliflower actually tastes better than just regular rice with.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, there's some Chinese foods that we make in our house that I think the rice tastes much better than that weird cauliflower. It just kind of depends on which one it is. And without experimenting, I wouldn't know that. But I do know that eating the cauliflower is supposed to be healthier for you or whatever, and it's white rice, brown rice, whatever, whatever. Don't really care. But it's those combinations, and like I like broccoli. I like raw broccoli. And whether it's with a ton of salt or with ranch, that makes me happy. And
there's a lot of. Go ahead.
You cut out. No, Go ahead.
There's a lot of people that when they leave the diet world and they come into the intuitive eating world, they struggle because they're like, Well, there were some foods I ate when I was on a diet, and I really liked them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But now I feel like if I eat the same food I ate when I was on a diet, then I'm kind of like going down the diet road again. Well, for example, I have a really hard time eating breakfast. I I don't like to eat by myself, and my
Mm-hmm.
husband works.
Mm-hmm.
So then I sit by myself, and I like to multitask while I eat, and I like it to be fast.
Mm-hmm.
So fast things are like bagels and cereal and things like that. And they just don't sit that well with me early in the morning. So quite a while ago, I got this idea and I was like, I remember when I used to drink shakes when I was on the diet, and it worked so well
Mm-hmm.
because it's fast, it's convenient, it's loaded with nutrients. I can work on the computer and be drinking them, but I felt like it was wrong. It's like, well, that's diet food. And then I was like, but it works for me. So it was kind of interesting because now I do. I drink a shake probably, I don't know, I'd say 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week.
Sure.
I have a shake for breakfast. But it was funny because when I went to the companies to buy them, they go, well, what are your goals? I'm like, well, I don't have any goals. My goal is to
Right.
have a shake for breakfast. That's it. I just want a shake for breakfast. But it's like, I'm not on a diet. I just want a shake for breakfast.
Right. And I think that, if you go into one of those health nutrition stores or whatever, when I go into them, I have to bat them away because I really, unless I have a question about a product, I really don't want to talk to them too much because I don't want to get sold on, this is going to help you here. I don't want to hear the spiel on, this new weight loss pill that's going to, whatever. I came in for, CBD oil. I came in for, whatever it is. These are the things I want. I want some quality vitamins, some quality, things. And the particular store I'm talking about, they have really good products. I think they're I don't buy everything there, but there's some things there. It's like, okay, my body feels different when I take this, and I take sups and, different things. And I don't really want to get into that. I guess it's not really a part of your book, but that's the one thing that they always hit is that, okay, what's your weight? What's your this? What's your that? And it's like, shut up, go away.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I'm 6'1", 250 pounds. And, oh my God, that's obese. No, it's not. It's not obese. I'm sorry. I'm a teddy bear is what I am.
Yeah.
I've got a big old frame that's very thick and dense and, what a big old barrel chest and so on and so forth. Yeah, I don't look like you because I don't have the flat chest and I don't have this, that, and the other thing. You want to arm wrestle? Let's do it.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is the misconception that you can look at somebody's size and determine their level of health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every doctor I've talked to, if they pull out the BMI chart, I tell them to put that shit back in the drawer and sell that crap to somebody else because it is shit. And if anybody wants to comment on this, fine, we'll have a discussion about it. Because you can't determine how healthy I am or how much muscle mass I have or anything else because of some chart based on what small Chinese people in a different country,
I went to the doctor years ago. And at the time I was going to the gym a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to work outside the home, my friends all went to the gym in the morning before work. And so I went to the gym in the morning before work with my friends. We worked out.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't necessarily because we were trying to lose weight or anything. We just went to the gym. It's what we did for fun at 6 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, and it was fun though. I mean, not just fun going to the gym. It was fun because I felt strong.
Yeah.
My husband asked me one time to help lift something. I was like, oh, I can't lift that. He's like, you flip tires at the gym. And I had bruises on my arms from flipping tires because it was fun. We had fun. But anyway, I went to the doctor. I was so pissed. I was sitting in the chair and he's sitting in this little thing and he didn't even look at me. And he looked at all my numbers and stuff. And then he looks up at the chart and then he comes back down and he goes, oh, you're obese. And he writes it down on his paper. I'm like, you didn't even look at me.
Right.
How do you dare judge anything about my body? You're not even you're just I don't even need to be here for this. You're just looking at numbers and making judgments and labeling me. I
Hmm.
don't go to that doctor anymore. But I was like, I know if that and I mean, even still, I was really healthy. I could
Hmm.
flip tires.
Right. Well,
There's
and
nothing
that's,
wrong with my health.
the one thing that I think a lot of people miss, and I think it's just because of society and the way that we work now, and that things aren't nearly as physical as they used to be. I grew up on a farm, and you're constantly walking around picking up this, moving it over here, doing this, doing that, so on and so forth. And that's an experience that I would never trade for anything,
Mhm.
because we I think that we're built to be active.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily think, I'm not talking like, you should go to the gym 4 times a week or do this or that. But I mean, you're built to pick things up, move them, do this, do that, walk from here to there. I mean, we have a vehicle that we were
Yeah.
given.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of people, get butt-itis or whatever because they sit in that office chair all day and they don't want to do anything else and everything else. And then they go out for a walk and it feels amazing.
Mhm.
And that's because this is what your body was built for. It wasn't built to sit your butt in front of a computer all day and all night.
Mhm.
It was built to
Yeah.
get up and move.
Yeah.
Same thing with, I think there's a lot of, I think people's diets, I don't mean diet as far as cutting weight, but the things that they eat, I think it has a lot to do with where you, your genetics and where you came from. Because
Mhm.
a lot of people that they predominantly eat chicken versus red meat.
Mhm.
And then my whole family, we're carnivores. We'll eat any kind of meat, but we prefer red meat, type thing.
Mhm.
Some doctors out there going, oh my god, you're gonna kill
Yeah.
yourself. Okay, yeah, maybe, but whatever. Meat and potatoes, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Steak is my, yeah, love it.
Yeah. I think that's a Midwest thing because I grew up eating potatoes.
Well, that's right. You're from Iowa. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you go out, somebody else, and they're eating, grass clippings and this and that and everything else. And, they pretend that that's making them happy. And if it is, great. And if it's not, then,
Yeah.
maybe you ought to try eating something that was slaughtered. I don't know. But yeah, I know.
You know, we had a really big, a really huge Oscar Mayer
Of
factory
course.
plant, whatever you call it, where I grew up. And it smelled when you
Oh,
drive
yeah.
by there. This when I was little.
Yeah. In South Dakota, where I grew up, there's a big morel plant it's not morel anymore, but in Sioux Falls.
Mhm.
And my brother-in-law worked there, and it is basically pig slaughtering.
Mhm.
And he's an engineer, so his whole thing was, how to build things more efficiently. That's a nice way of putting it. Um, but what I really loved about his stories from work was that here at John Morrell, we use everything but the squeal. And so every piece of that animal was used for something. And it just was, yeah, it was just so funny. It's like, these are for research. This is for this, but every piece of it they sold, no matter what it was. They had some sort of a market to be able to sell it to. And that's like, which is a good, efficient use of animals, I guess,
Mhm.
if you're going to use everything. Um, but the smell is horrible. you know, it's not good. Sioux City.
Yeah. I don't know if they still have that plant there. I haven't been there in forever. So I'm talking about when I was little. But I mean, Iowa, again, I mean, it's really the corn state, but a lot of people inadvertently refer to it as the pig state, but it really is the corn state.
Yeah.
But we have the Oscar Mayer plant, and I remember being when we were little, it was like, oh, roll the windows up in the car, and then we actually had to. Speaking of using your body, we had to actually roll with
Yeah.
our hand the window up. We didn't
There,
just press
there
the button.
wasn't some little fancy button that made it go up and
Yeah,
down. It was a crank.
we actually had to use energy to get the window up.
Well, I was going to say Sioux City, which is part in South Dakota, part in Iowa, part in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a bunch of plants down there. And when you drive the express route around that city,
Mhm.
it smells for 20 miles. I mean, it's horrible, and they've got, the cows, the pigs. I think they have a chicken processor down there, and it just, it's all in one area, and you can't get rid of that smell, you
Mm.
know. That's where you're very happy that the speed limit's like 80 miles an hour where you go by, because hopefully,
Yeah. Well, that's clear on the other side of the state where I grew up.
yeah, but I, just
But I think we could. But I think we could see it.
really, yeah.
It's so flat.
Right. Probably could on a clear
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we could see it over there.
Cool. So this book of yours is going to be on Amazon.
Amazon. Yes.
Or it is on Amazon, and you're going wide with this, so it's going to be on some other mediums and stuff like that. But the really cool thing is that when you're talking about this type of stuff, it's I would say it's more of a lifestyle book, but it's also anti-diet, and I think it's a beautiful thing when people can actually balance being happy with being healthy, with being, fulfilled in life. And I think
Mhm.
I think that's where you're trying to go with this.
Exactly. And I mean, the thing is like we have enough problems going on in the world right now. I just feel like people need to just look deeper at other people than what's on the surface. And I think we need to do that both when we're looking out, but also when we're looking in. But for me personally, I'm so tired of the judgment and the thoughts that we're creating just by looking, just by what we see in another person. And that's one of the things that's really cool about online is like, and I was telling you earlier, I have a Facebook group we've got like 1,500 people in there. There's some great people that open up and they share and all this stuff. We have no idea what any of them look like.
And what the hell does it matter?
I know, exactly. Because it's online. And it's like you meet them and it's just like, oh my gosh, this person really said something that resonated with me today on an issue that's came up, and it's like, and it's so cool that we're able to do that. But it's like, I want that to be global. I want it to be not just in an online group.
Yeah, that'd be
that we can
nice.
see. Wouldn't that be cool? I know. I'm like the fairy tale.
Well, and that is one of the few benefits of being social online.
Mhm.
I shouldn't say few, but I get kind of tired of the computer stuff at times, and I really don't want to be around people, so I'll just go off.
Mhm.
But author anyway. But you get a lot of amazing opinions and different perspectives, especially when you're talking to people in other countries. So if you haven't traveled to out of the United States or out of England or whatever, but you get to talk to people from other places, what's life like in Iberia, or
Mhm.
Liberia, I'm sorry. You can find that out. You can find people that have that, and it doesn't really matter what they look like or whatever. If they have an emoji versus, an actual picture, and maybe it's a picture from 30 years ago, when they felt like they looked decent, or,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It more matters what the quality of person is, and whether or not they can actually yeah, contribute. They're not a hater, they're not this, they're not that, they're not always trying to down you, because that happens on Facebook. You got the haters.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. The like the road rage, the computer, hide behind my computer screen kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, that type of stuff. You get rid of those people, and there are a whole bunch of really good, smart people out there that are communicating on social mediums that if you probably saw them on the street, you'd probably be like, um, you know, I mean, whatever. I mean, you know, color, sex, da 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 da, you know, size, all that kind of stuff. You know, we're so damn judgy in society, you
Well,
know.
I think a lot of that is I think personally the reason we do that, people do that, is because they feel like crap on the inside. When I used to teach special ed,
Mhm.
and I worked primarily, mostly, the most population I worked with were kids that had emotional problems.
Yeah,
And I knew coming into it, every kid I ever worked with, they felt like crap, and their goal was to make everybody else feel like crap.
sure.
Once we could understand that that's their driving force, is I just want everybody else to feel as crappy as I do,
Right.
then it was like, well, I'm not going to feel crappy because I know that's the goal, but then we could address it. We could help them. And I think that that's a lot of what happens is I feel so much like crap. I just want everyone else to feel like crap too. Just like all my little students.
Right. And we had that same thing in the corporate world. We called them accounting.
Oh,
Sorry. I try and dig at accountants every time I come on air. But anyway. But it sounds very similar to accounting departments. Yes.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, okay. Well,
I do know a
you
little
are
bit
very
about,
familiar since you had to work with kids that had emotional problems.
I am familiar with having to deal with the payroll department in the school districts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably very comparable, where it's like, well, sorry, I forgot to cut your check this week, but you'll get a double in 2 weeks.
Right. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
You mean you didn't have a savings plan to where you can miss a paycheck and be just fine? I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't really realize you're so financially inept. You know, in my life. Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hear
And then
about your life.
you're going to get taxed like crazy. Now you got a double paycheck.
Oh, they always, and I mean, what I always thought was funny with the damn accountants is that, well, you know, you pay those taxes now and you should be able to get them back in a refund in April. It's like, no, just tax it right in the first place, you dork. Why don't you have an accounting system that works? I mean, a payroll system. I mean, my God, you can't change it. You can't do special pay rates or anything. QuickBooks does that. What the hell? We spent $42,000 on this damn system, and QuickBooks is more advanced. We should switch to QuickBooks. We should. That way you can, you know, it's just, you know, stupid stuff like that. Well, it does a really good on our cash analysis. No, really? Oh, good. You can't do that in an Excel spreadsheet? Shut up. Anyway, I'm sorry. So back to if my ass were smaller. Just kidding. We've covered a whole lot of topics today.
We have a ton of stuff.
I know. This is awesome. So this is your first book.
This is my first book. Yes.
So I mean, you know, you're in the process of that, you know, first launching and all that kind of stuff, and you also you're a coach, you said. Do you have plans for another book, and do you have any other projects coming out, or is this the
I have so many plans in my head. Okay.
Yeah.
First thing is there will be a course that'll go into a deeper dive online course that will come out. Hopefully February, March, that's going to come out. That way, when you read the book and it's like, okay, this is great, but I don't want to do this independently. I don't want to just try to work through your suggestions and things that are here, the activities. I want more help, and I want to go deeper. That's what the course will be about. Now, as far as a book 2, I don't know. I did totally set it up at the end for a second book. And I'll tell you what happened. I can be a storyteller. I like to tell stories. I like to do analogies. I like to just, I mean, I worked in special ed. My job has always been, and it works really good for my head, is to take something complicated and bring it way down to something that we can understand, which made me, I think, a good relatable special educator. Let's break this down to what it really is. They're not really asking you what 4 + 7 is. Let's break this down to where you understand it. And so that's what I feel like I did in my book. But a nonfiction book is like, who wants to read a nonfiction book? They're so boring. And then also, it's a subject matter that people relate to, but you need examples. You need to say, well, this happens, and we all know it happens. But if I was to word it like, well, when you go to the doctor, or when you do this, or you do this, and that happens, people have a tendency to feel like they're being called out, and then they want to hang on to and defend that behavior. And so it's kind of like if I were to say to you, you need to put the toilet lid down. Well, now you're being called out and you need to defend the behavior. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, how can I present this in a way that people don't feel like they need to defend it? And I certainly can't say, oh, well, this happened to me, if it didn't happen to me, because by the time my book was done, it'd be like, she messed up. All this stuff happened to her. So, but I knew stories from clients, from my life, from my friends' lives, things that I knew people had struggled with and they had overcome. And so in order to present that, I created a character. And all of this stuff happened to her. If it happened to me, it happened to her. If it happened to my friend, it happened to her. If it happened to one of my clients, it happened to her.
Sure.
She tells a story through her lens. And in the very, very end, I left it open, almost open, that I could do a second book that's almost more fictional based with a little bit of nonfiction thrown in, where this one is nonfiction with storytelling put into it. So I don't know. We will see what happens with my character.
Okay.
If she comes out with a book. Could happen.
Good.
We left it open. I've had a couple of people tell me, because I asked them, I go, what did you think of the ending? Because the ending's very different than the rest of the book. I go, what do you think of the ending? And they said, well, I was really upset. And I'm like, oh my God, why were you upset at the ending? It's like, it's supposed to be good. No, she's like, I was really upset because then the book was over. And I wanted more. I wanted to hear more about what happened. And a couple of people did say, are you going to do a book 2? Because you completely set it up for the possibility of a book 2. So we'll see.
And that's what you try and do, is you try and evoke emotions. Mm-hmm. That's the whole purpose of writing a book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, is to, kind of, bring either a happiness or a sadness or a, anger or, whatever it is, one of those strong emotions out. Pretty much everything but shame.
Well, and that's the thing, is I didn't want anybody to that's why I created my character, is so she takes it all on. I did this, and this is what I did, and this is how, I dealt with it. So people could be like, oh yeah, I'm not alone. The first time you find out you're not alone is like, okay, now I can release it. I don't have to defend it, because safety in numbers. Oh, this happened to more than just me.
Exactly. That sounds awesome. You should really write that. I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah. So maybe, and the thing is when I wrote my book, the stuff I had the most fun with, and her name is Darlene, my character. Her name is Darlene. I had the most fun writing Darlene's story than anything else. The rest of it was applying, methodology and things to do, and how to fix it and stuff. And so it was like, I had to really, that was like the teacher part of me, where it's like the instruction came in, but the storytelling was the most fun. So
I would think that I would be a fan of Darlene's as long as she doesn't become a sparkly vampire.
Yeah, I've never done those vampire things.
Yeah, as long as it's not be a vampire, but not a sparkly one. But other than that, it sounds awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Darlene. She's got some other characters in her story. She's got some interactions with some siblings. Mm-hmm. So there was a little bit of character development, which was fun. There's some situation where she compared based on appearance, and of course, her mean girl, she failed in comparison. She came
Mhm.
out as, not, she looked out, saw the neighbor. She's real pretty. And immediately she felt insignificant because of her mean girl telling her that she's too mediocre and that girl's pretty. So, so there was some fun character development, and Darlene grew also.
That actually sounds really awesome. It really does. Like I said, I would encourage you to write that at some point in time.
Well, and though you didn't actually go through it, you may understand a little bit like when you have a baby and you're like, I'm never doing this again. But then after a while, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I will do that again. Right now, I'm at the birthing pavilion saying, I ain't doing this again.
Yeah, but after you have your book birthday,
Yeah.
and after you get through all of the tormenting of yourself, watching the book on that first day, and also seeing that Amazon doesn't update crap for days, and your sales and your author page and all that kind of stuff is still kind of sinking with your book, and after you beat yourself up night after night after night, God, I shouldn't have done this, and then everything kind of settles down, the dust settles, and it's like, oh, everything worked out.
Yeah.
Yay!
Once we get past the shitty diaper stage, is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. Once you get past the shitty diaper stage, yes. Let's say February, you're gonna be like, I should do this again.
Oh, I don't see that happening in February.
I don't
No,
know.
I still see a few dirty diapers in February. Maybe.
Maybe March, but at some point in time in the year, if you enjoyed writing the book in the first place, you're gonna want that feeling again, because after you get done with all of the horrible first-time author releasing a book, I got to do this, I got to do that, and all the checklists and all that kind of crap.
Yes,
You're
and
gonna
the
look at it and go,
sleepless.
I can do that again.
Yeah, the sleepless nights. What if people hate it?
Mm-hmm.
What if I have to refund money because they're like, this was crap?
I would honestly take your own advice and reinforce your sleepless nights with garlic nachos.
Oh yeah, if I'm gonna be awake anyway,
You might as well enjoy yourself.
I might as well have had nachos beforehand. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, oh, I'm really stressed out. Garlic nachos and staying up all night. Winner.
I'm gonna be awake anyway. I might just as well. I didn't even think of that as a possibility. That's a great idea.
Just saying, have all the ingredients there. Get the recipe.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's a great idea. Great idea.
All righty. Well, we're running up on an hour here, so I'm going to. Is there anything else you want to tell your readers about the book or what you have upcoming, or have you pretty much covered everything?
I think we covered way more than I thought we were going to cover. Things that I never even thought would come up.
Like toilet paper and toilet lids. Yeah, I get that. That happens a lot here. I don't know. All righty. Well, with that, Julie, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I appreciate taking all this time talking to me. Julie Glynn, and if my ass were smaller, life would be perfect, and other lies the mean girl in your head tells you. It sounds like it's a well written book, and it sounds like it's something that everybody should at least take a look at. Even if you have a mean boy in your head, you should probably read it.
Yeah,
it probably applies. So
well, you can relate to the woman who has a mean girl if you have a mean boy.
According to my attorney, I should not comment on that. So anyway, with that, this is Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer Podcast. If you would please follow me and download my podcast on whatever platform you happen to be listening to, whether it be Spotify, Podbean, iHeart, iTunes, whatever, and also my YouTube channel. Subscribe. And I appreciate you listening to this podcast. And with that, I want to bid you a very good day and keep your chin up. Bye-bye.
Please hit the subscribe button. I get a bonus for every subscriber and I only need 1,506 more to become a full-time paid employee. Help me please.